Good morning. It's also a pleasure to be here. Then I will present the financial spillovers from Gulf conflict on developing countries. Then the first thing is that as happened with the performance of the global economy and the trade, global trade performance, the impact of the, let's say, tariff shock in April 2025 on global financial conditions were also very concentrating in April, and the global financial conditions improved in 2025. What are global financial conditions? Now, we, in the TDR 2025, for you that are more interested to know more about that, we detail the impact of global financial conditions in trade and capital flows. And three factors affect these conditions. And these conditions are the main driver of capital flows to developing countries. And we usually call these conditions push factors, so are factors that are pushing capital flows, but surely domestic factors that we call the pull factors that attracted also affect, but are not the main determinants. And then there are three factors that affect these conditions, as detailed in Chapter 2 TDR last year. The exchange rate of the dollar, because the dollar, as you know, are the key currency of the international monetary system. Then is the dollar exchange rate that is the most important, variable in this case. Also, the monetary policy stance, monetary policy in the US and all the major developing countries as the Euro area, the UK and Japan. And another variable that you also surely you listen about is the global risk appetite, or the inverse, the global risk aversion. Then these three variables, depending on how they perform it, they will push capital to developing countries or will trigger an outflow. And what happened from May 2025 is that these three variables performance in a way that improved global financial conditions, and the demand of global investors to currencies and assets of developing countries. Then first, the dollar depreciated. So currently are many empirical studies showing how when the dollar depreciates, so lost value, this increased the demand for assets of developing countries. When I talk about assets, I'm talking about three kinds of assets. So stocks, so to buy stocks of developing countries, the most, the most important way is going into domestic stock markets, but we are also has an instrument issue in international capital market that replicate these stocks investors can buy, that call American Depositary Receipt or global deposit receipt, but the main way is to really enter in the developing countries' domestic stock markets. The other assets are the sovereign and corporate bonds issued in the global capital market. So these bonds are denominated usually in dollar or euro. And the third asset is these sovereign bonds, or are mainly sovereign bonds nowadays, but also for some countries, corporate bonds that are issued in the domestic market, so is denominated in the local currencies. So are these three kind of assets that global investors search and buy when these conditions are favorable. So the depreciation of dollar, what this means? This means that when an investor buy a local, in the domestic market, a stock or a bond, when they enter the dollar, let's say has is 1-to-1, for example, but the dollar is depreciating in relation to this developing country currency. This means that the developing country currency are appreciating, are gaining value. Then when the investor will sell the bond to convert to dollar, and then to realize the financial return, this means that they will get now more dollars than when they buy the bond, because the local currency appreciated. So this stimulates, the foreign investors to enter in to buy these assets. When we think about the global, like a government of developing countries or a corporation buy a bond abroad that is denominated in dollar, they will need to pay the service. No, what is the service? The debt service is the interest rate that they need to pay, and amortization is to pay a part of the principal, of the value of the bond. Then what happened? The dollar depreciates. My currency is appreciating. Then I will need a smaller value of my currency to pay the debt service. So this in this case, is stimulated the developing countries' borrowers, sovereign or corporations, to issue abroad. So these are the main mechanism, channel of transmission of the depreciation of the dollar. When we look at the monetary policy in developed countries, if they are losing, so the policy rate that the central banks fixed are decreasing, and at the same time, in developing countries, this rate usually are higher. And last year, what happened? Developed countries cut interest rates, so are less profitable to invest in developed countries, and developing countries, or they decrease less or even increase or keep constant. So for example, one important example, I'm Brazilian, and by coincidence, Brazil increased a lot the interest rate last year. Then what happened is the financial returns to buy a Brazilian bond in Brazil is much, much greater than if I invest in a developed countries. So this the dimension of the global financial conditions also improved, and the global risk appetite. What happened? Exactly because, as my colleague shows, Cameron shows, the trade policy uncertainty is still high, but we saw how decreased. The impact of the tariff shock on global trade, global economy was much, much less severe. And then all of this environment also affect positively the global risk appetite. So this explains why what are the two figures show that the capital, not total capital flows, the portfolio flows, that exactly what is the portfolio, is the investor buying bonds and the stocks of developing countries, increased in 2025. In these figures that was very, very important to explain, we are showing not all developing countries, but two groups of countries that we use now at UNCTAD, and there are other also international organizations, to look to these two groups when we analyze portfolio flows that we call emerging market economies and the frontier market economies. But their classification here, the emerging market economies, are not the same of the emerging economies that was in the previous figures. So because in the previous figures are emerging economies as defined by the International Monetary Fund, that depends on economic features like the GDP, the participation in the global exports, and then this is different from advanced economies. Here, what we mean by emerging market and frontier market. The definition depends on how these countries are integrated in the international financial system or the global financial markets, okay? Because it's this integration, how the degree and the profile of integration that will affect how the global financial conditions affect global portfolio inflows that go mainly to this group of economies, that are the group that are more integrated in these markets. The emerging markets are these countries that integrate in the beginning of the 90s, and the frontier markets are the ones that integrate mainly after the global financial crisis of 2008. And we also detail this classification, how these two groups are also different in the TDR 2023, if you are interested. And then we see how these two groups receive more capital inflows, and what is very, very important, and for many of you, because after you can look at who are these frontiers, but are mainly lower middle income countries, and most of them are from Africa, and some low income, even some least developing countries. They are now, global investors are, the interest of global investors in these countries are increasing. Then we see how over 2025, more each quarter, more capital flowed to these countries. But another important perspective are the regional perspective. Only one thing that I forgot to mention, sorry. This is very important because we don't have this data in the TDR last year because the data was not available. So this data of capital flows is released with a delay. And now we have up to the end of 2025, but not for all countries, okay? Then this will be updated, and from other information we got, we should have even a better, higher, sure, we have a higher number, but also we'll see a greater increase regarding to last year, okay? So only to make sure that the data don't include all countries. The same in the case of this figure that are all developing countries. So are not only the emerging frontiers, but also the other countries that depend less on capital, private capital, depend more on official, multilateral, and bilateral financing that we can also, both of them are official, the greater part official development assistance. Here are only portfolio flows, so are only private. We also see for all developing countries an increased over 2025. But we also see, as in the case of trade, a big asymmetry across the regions. And like we see from third quarter increase to Latin America, and this is related from what I mentioned for Brazil, but not only for Brazil, other countries that has a higher interest rate, so have a higher differential between the Latin America countries and the developed countries, and also to Asia, that is also related to the performance of trade and the greater growth of Asian economies. And then because of this improved, benign global financial conditions and the greater demand to developing countries, in this case, emerging market and frontier market economies, external sovereign bonds, what happened? The yield, first, they spread in related to the yield of the United States bond of the same maturity, and then the yield, like the financial return that the investor get when buy this bond, decreased last year. Why this happened? Because, okay, increased demand, I will buy more this bond, the price of this bond increase. And when the price increase, the yield decrease. So is a inverse relationship. And this means that the cost of borrowing, of external borrowing, decreased last year for emerging frontier market economies, and stimulating governments, state-owned enterprise, private corporations to issue bonds abroad. And what happened in the beginning of 2026, January and February, these favorable global financial conditions continue in the beginning of this year, and even we can say, as the data of January show, they got even better. They improved further in January. So these non-resident inflows for all developing countries, here we have 50, that I didn't mention, yes, 53 developing countries, and the total is 154, only two, the sample is this. We have the highest level in January, if we even including and excluding China, since September 2024. So this means that the appetite for assets issued for developing countries were very, very high on the eve of the Gulf conflict. But what happened? The outbreak of the Gulf conflict reversed this trend. So all this positive environment regarding capital flows to developing countries come to a halt with the conflict. And this, as you saw, all external shocks, then the more recent ones, COVID, Ukrainian war, and now the Gulf conflict, the first reaction of global investors, the first one is like, the risk is higher, the assets of developing countries has a higher risk, and then we will first sell these assets. So this is the first reaction, the really short term. After, each shock depends on how the shock will persist or not. But in this case, what we see was this effect. But with one important difference is that usually what happens during these shocks is that the demand for the major developed countries' sovereign bonds increase. And as I mentioned, if demand increase, the price will increase and the yield will decrease. And what happened in the first, they are still high, but in the first days after the conflict, how many time I have? How many? Okay. No, okay, thank you. And then what happened is that this didn't happen. So the bonds yields of these major developed countries, what happened is that they increase. We see that now they decrease it a bit, but they are still higher than before the conflict. At the same time, as I will show next, the dollar appreciated, because always during these moments of external shocks, when the risk aversion increase, the dollar appreciates. Sure, everyone wants the key currency of the international monetary system. And then one key explanation, we will detail more this in the TDR, but one important explanation is that because of the effect that you saw of the shock in oil price, in fuel price, and this will have a negative impact on inflation, so inflation should increase. This means that monetary policy in developed countries will become tighter, so like Australia has already increased the policy rates, or countries will stop decreasing or will increase. And then in this context, these bonds of more longer term, they are more interest. Like investors don't want to buy these bonds. Why? Because they have now a lower interest rate than they are expecting. So it's better to sell this bond or to buy short term, or still wait to buy when you will get a higher interest rate. So this is one key explanation. Surely, we have also now a diversification away from the US Treasury and other assets because of, let's say, the effect of all this uncertainty with the current Trump government. And we see the appreciation of the dollar regarding both the emerging frontier markets and also when we look at the developing regions, also all here this average, there are depreciation of developing countries. And as you know, this will have, if persisted, a negative impact in inflation, because you have this, it will be more expensive, imports will become more expensive, and then this will have a negative consequence in inflation, and then can have in monetary policy that will be more tightened and then can affect the growth. And we see also that investors has sold off, are selling off assets of developing countries. The same that they bought last year, they are selling. Then we see this in the stock market prices that are decreasing because they are selling. We see this in the bonds yields, as I mentioned. So now is the inverse. As they are selling these bonds, the price are decreasing and the yields are increasing. So this means that the cost of external borrowing are increasing for developing countries, and of domestic sovereign borrowing also. Here we have some countries, to see we didn't get the data for a greater sample of countries, but for most countries now, to issue a bond domestically, they will need to offer a higher interest rate to investors. So to finalize this part, this section, perspectives and policy consideration. So our basic scenario, as my colleagues mentioned, is that the conflict will end soon, and then that will not have a longer conflict. So in this context, what could happen, we never know, is that these financial conditions, global financial conditions, will improve, and we can have these capital outflows, this negative impact on developing countries could be short-lived. But if the conflict lasts, what could have is a broad-based and much severe flight to quality. What is flight to quality? Is flight to developed countries, mainly US, but other major developed countries' assets, financial assets. And then this will affect also in a very severe way developing countries. So cost of external borrowing will increase, domestic borrowing also. The possibility of issue new stocks, equity as a domestic financing way, also everything will become more difficult for developing countries. If this happens, what we recommend is that the international community should first provide short-term external financing. So developing countries need dollars, euros to pay for essentially imports and for pay the external debt services. This can be done, as we saw during the COVID crisis, through International Monetary Fund emergency lending, the central bank's currency swaps when Euro or the Euro Central Bank or the Federal Reserves offer dollars in exchange for the local currency to the other countries, and also regional financial arrangements to provide this liquidity. Second, empower developing banks to provide also emergent loans, as they did during the COVID, and a suspension of the debt service by official creditors. At also the time of the COVID, the G20 launched the debt service suspension initiative to provide this short-term, facilitate these countries to go through these adverse